Scorpio. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for December of 2021. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mijas in San Francisco.
Well, if you missed your annual birthday reading, it's not too late. Your birthday is over and your new year has begun. And you may have noticed that it's like, the room has been rearranged. Things are different. Different things are up. And if you want to know more about what those themes are, then a birthday reading with one of us will answer all your questions. And you can find a link for that in the YouTube description below. Well, you can see that we've got a lot of activity this month in your second and third houses. Most particularly, I want to point your attention to Saturn and Uranus, which have been traveling in a square this year. Saturn's been passing through your fourth house, which it will spend 2 to 3 years doing, and it's only been there for about a year so far. Saturn makes us feel heaviness and duty and obligation and a sense of burden in whatever house it's traveling through. The fourth house is the house of home and family, so relationships with family members, also your home life and the nest that you've created for yourself as an adult. So there's nothing like Saturn passing through the fourth house to bring on construction, either that you're doing on purpose, which makes your home kind of unlivable, uncomfortable for the duration, but promises something better in the future. And even if you're not, driving those changes, you might find that, well, they're drilling in the street outside, or as in my case, they're demolishing the school next door and rebuilding it. So needless to say, our best approach to any Saturn passage through a house is to take responsibility in that area. And the more that you can make your relationships with family better and put in an effort to make your home nicer, you'll reap the rewards of that eventually within a couple of years. So the other planet that I'm talking about right here is Uranus, which is passing through your seventh house. Uranus brings big sweeping changes, paradigm shifts, you might say, a shift in your very concept of something. It's traveling through your seventh house in about a 7 years journey, in which it's in about year 3 of that. And Uranus is changing up your relationships, maybe making you look for people to relate with that are a little bit more off the beaten path, a little bit more unusual, a little different, people who are more like a live wire. Perhaps you're dating off type right now. And if so, this Uranus placement would be why. So this year in particular, Uranus and Saturn have been back and forth in a square pretty much all year. And now it's coming to a close. And that's kind of a relief because if you have anything in your chart at all between 7 and 13 degrees of a fixed sign, which means Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, or Taurus, then you've really been feeling this and feeling the pressure of Saturn to be more mature, more grown up, take things more seriously, or be punished. Pushing against Uranus, which is saying, no, break down, break through, break out, make changes. And so it's been quite a battle royal going on in our skies, and plenty of us have been feeling that. So, Julia, I think you've got some news about Mercury, Mars, and Venus for the Scorpios of the world.
Yes, I do, Jamie. Hey, Scorpio. I'll begin with Mercury. That's the planet that represents communication and mentation. So for the first part of the month, it's going to be in your second house of money. And wherever we have Mercury is where we expend a lot of our mental energy. So the first part of the month, you could be thinking a lot about your money, how to make more, how to organize it better, how to, what your future plans and strategies for money are too. Second house also represents values. So those could be things that you're communicating a lot with other people as well. Then on the 13th, Mercury enters your third house. That's the house of siblings, your neighborhood, even your neighbors as well. It's also a house of writing too. So when Mercury goes into the third, it's actually a wonderful transit if you have any writing to do, whether that's for school or your personal life or your professional life. It can give you a boost to that. Also, it's a great transit for learning new things because the third house can represent education. And this might be a time where you find yourself getting more calls from your brothers or sisters. Even cousins are represented by this house too. Maybe you're spending more time talking to your neighbors, whether they're living down the hall of your apartment or next door to your house. Then Mars, the planet of action and activity, starts the month in your first house of self. So when Mars is in the first, it can be a time where we get a lot more assertive. Mars in the first can be a wonderful time for really fighting for your own rights and sort of, standing up for your boundaries more. However, Mars in the first can sometimes go a little bit overboard too, like where we might overly assert ourselves or make mountains out of molehills. So, use this transit to kind of to assert yourselves in some ways and put yourself forward, but also remember not to overdo it as well. Then on the 13th, Mars enters your second house of money. And this is going to be a little bit different than when Mercury was in here, because Mars tends to bring a little bit more conflict and sometimes more frustrations. So when Mars comes into your money house on the 13th, it could be a time of conflict around money, maybe arguing with other people. It's not a great time to ask for a raise. That'll be that, in another month or so when Mars is out of your second house will be better for that. And it can be a time of having to fight over your values or fight for your values, whether they're religious or political or family values as well. Now, Venus, the planet of art, beauty, and relationships, begins the month in your third house, where she's going to spend all month. Now, on the 19th, she's also going to go retrograde, and that is a pretty long cycle. It goes for about 6 weeks. So Venus is going to be retrograde well into January, all the way to January 29th. But Venus in the third, again, the third is your siblings, it's your neighborhood, it's also the house of communication. Now, when a planet goes retrograde, it's a time of reviewing the themes of whatever that planet represents. And since Venus is relationships, this is a time of relationship review. So the themes of this review are going to be third house. You might be, let's say you're in a relationship currently, thinking, rethinking, and reviewing your relationship and how you two communicate together. Thinking, are there ways we can improve our communication? Should we try counseling? Are we ever going to be able to communicate well together? These communication is going to be kind of a big issue. And if you're not in a relationship right now, then you're going to be thinking about communication in terms of your next relationship. Maybe you're reviewing your past relationships and saying, wow, when we had communication breakdowns, things went wrong. I really want better communication next time around. And during every retrograde cycle of Venus, those are a 6-week period where all of us could get more surprises from our exes, sometimes phone calls, sometimes you just run into them on the street. So definitely be prepared for that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll be saying more about that also next month as it continues. So we've got 2 moons. The first of these is solar eclipse right here on December 3rd in your second house. Now, an eclipse is a time when we're forced to look at our shadow, which means, the stuff behind you that you don't like to look at, don't really like to admit is there, that's your shadow material. And a solar eclipse in particular shows you your shadow through how you behave. And this is the second house. So, I just can't say it any clearer. Watch your spending this month. The whole month begins with this emphasis in the second house. So your money is on your mind to begin with. And a lot of your thoughts are going into that and trying to figure that out and plan for that. But you may find that something, some behavior happens that just has you, do something really dumb with your money. And so watch out for that around the 3rd and just get through the eclipse without that happening, please. So then the second moon of this month happens on the 18th, right here with the moon in Gemini in your 8th house, which is the house of other people's money. So this is where your relationship with another person or with an entity overlaps financially. So this is the house of taxes. It's the house of insurance. It's the house of investments of all kinds. So, and this moon is a lot smoother than the first moon of the month. That eclipse on the 3rd was not only an eclipse and therefore probably more dramatic, but it also had a lot of stress embedded in it. Whereas this full moon is a lot smoother and easier. So we call this one broadened minds gain bigger hearts. And this is the eclipse this is the full moon where you could find some resolution of some of the behaviors that happened under the eclipse. So if you are wanting to have a conversation with a partner or an entity, such as your bank that holds your mortgage, or that you want to get a loan from, this could be the time, this full moon could be the time when you can present your case in a more persuasive way that's more inclusive of the other guy's point of view, and thus will get your point across with more ease. So let's see, then we have the seasonal change. Now, as I said before, this month begins with a lot of emphasis here in the 2nd house, a lot of planets occupying that house, and the emphasis on the food that you eat, your relationship with your body and your health, and how you steward your body and also your finances. But as the month progresses, we find these planets by and large migrating over to the 3rd house, and that process really happens strongly as the sun moves into the 3rd house, which is on December 21st. And the sun brings the spotlight of attention wherever it goes. So whereas your attention previously was on your money, it's going to shift into the realm of communication proper, the sharing of ideas, letting them bounce back and forth between your mind and other minds, and putting some high quality attention on how you express your thoughts and lob them over the net into the court of the other person, and also how you receive other people's thoughts and allow them to really land with you. So that becomes the focus of the 2nd half of the month, carrying into next month, and in fact, next year. So that's what we have for you today. Hope you enjoyed it. You can find more good stuff like this. Like if Scorpio is your sun sign and you want the horoscope for your rising sign, which you'll find will work a lot better, you can find that on our website, pandoraastrology.com, in the horoscopes tab. And you can also find it on our YouTube channel, Pandora Astrology, in its own playlist. The news of the month, including Saturn square Uranus and both moons with that eclipse, you can find on our monthly forecast page on our website. And if you want a reading to explain any of this in more full terms, then you could get that with Julia or me on our website in the services or readings tab. And until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye-bye.
Bye.